All right. So, Special Forces episode 1 and 2, because it was listed as 2 episodes in the guide, but it was a 1.5 hour premiere. Now, I'm not saying season 1 because even though I started getting into it, I don't think it's going to be renewed. So, Um, mainly because, especially at the beginning, it was very melodramatic, especially that dime store version of Sir David Attenborough. Yeah. I was laughing whenever he was speaking, which is sad. I'm sure that wasn't the intention. But anyway, so they start off with 16 recruits on a train in the Jordanian desert. And they're ambushed by the staff. And they're taken hostage. They're hooded. And then they each have to stare into the eyes of one of the staff members. And you can tell which ones are athletes. They had no problem with the stares, with looking people in the eye. Dwight Howard had a bit of an issue, but that's because he's so freaking tall. It's kind of hard for him to look someone in the eye when to him the eyes are down here. So, same thing with Nastya. She can look into a person's eyes. She is an athlete, but she's also 5'3". Anyway, so she had the opposite problem with Dwight Howard. She had to look up. So, so that's the beginning of their journey. There's explosions going off, and they're doing this like, oh come on, really? And they keep threatening the recruits with death, like they would let anybody on this show die, because I mean, come on. Even if they weren't celebrities, that's not exactly a selling point. Come on, come do our show. You might end up dead. So, no. But it did allow for some hilarity. So, they meet up with the staff, and their first order of business is to run to the camp. And you can tell who the runners are. Again, the athletes. And poor Kate. I'm not a fan of hers, but I did feel bad because she just could not keep up with anybody. I actually came away with a better impression on all of them after this episode, except for Mooch. I still hope that he burns up when they set him on fire. Or he drowns next week. I'd be okay with that. He's still a horse's platoon. I didn't know anything about Tyler Florence, and now I really don't want to know anything about him. He also, oh my god, he came across as a serious douche. Dwight Howard, who is supposed to be the douche, came off a lot better. He seemed pretty cool. Now, a bit misunderstood, but cool nonetheless. So, obviously, this isn't a show that if you fail a challenge, you're gone. It's up to the recruits themselves, or if they get themselves really, really hurt. Otherwise, they stay on the entire time. It's up to them to decide when to quit. Which, fair enough. And the other reason I don't think the show is going to be renewed is How many pampered celebrities do you know who would, especially after watching this show, would be like, yeah, I want to do that? I can't imagine. I mean, I'll get to it later, but their reaction to their accommodations was, really? You've never heard of an outhouse before in your entire life? Okay. So, because it's not like these people were born with silver spoons in their mouths. I mean, anyway. So, so they get to camp, and immediately they make them strip. So hopefully they didn't show anything indecent, so I assume they warned the women, wear a bra. Because not all women do, so yeah, gotta be told that. So, they put on their combat fatigues, and then they're assigned a number. Um, Assigned a number and given a pack. Some of them had issues with following those directions, which so then they immediately are told the way things work, which is, we own you for these 10 days, which implies that they're better than you in this moment. So don't think you're an equal. I mean, they were cheerleaders for this. It's not like they were completely trashing the recruits, but so their first task, well, outside of the running to the camp, their first task was to watch, and I think it was Fox who demonstrated this. I think he's the one who demonstrates these tasks, which is to fall back from a helicopter into the water. And I was just like, number one, too bad none of the recruits are divers, because they would just have no problem with this, because I don't think that it was higher than the high dive, than the 10 meter. Number two, I figured Nastya and Gus Kenworthy, again, because they're acrobats. Even though they're not supposed to, in their fields, they're not supposed to actually land on their heads, still, acrobats, I expected they would pass, because, come on. The others, it was hit or miss. And the person that they were really concentrating on was Kate. They also made them first, before that, they made them dunk themselves into water, come out, and cover themselves with dirt. Okay. And the dime store, David Attenborough, didn't explain what the purpose of that was, especially considering what their first challenge was going to be. So everybody was doing what they were told, running to the first position to get to the helicopter to do their dive, except for Tyler Florence. Why do I have a problem with that name? He was acting like, oh, I don't have to do what I'm told. He even said that because he's a chef, he sees himself as on the same level as special forces. I couldn't follow that logic. I mean, it was so stretched. Plastic Man would have been impressed with how much he stretched to even attempt to make that logic. But so everyone else attempted it. Tyler Florence even tried to give a fist bump. It's like, really? It's like, I got it, didn't I? Fist bump. What is wrong with you? Jamie Lynn was saying yes, sir, instead of yes, staff. She didn't get into trouble for that, though. She was corrected, but she didn't get into trouble because, I mean, she was being respectful. So, which they're like, yeah, no. But anyway. So, Tyler already is on their shit list. Everyone else, I don't know all who passed and all who failed, but Kate. As much as I was not a fan of her before this, I have to give her mad props because number one, she attempted it, even though it was obvious she was always going to be last. She attempted it even though she was afraid of heights and afraid of water. So double whammy for her. And unfortunately, because of her fear, she locked up, and instead of going in the way she was supposed to, she went in kind of in a backward sitting position. I can't even call it a tuck position. I mean, a pike position, because that was not what she was going for. But, ooh. Yeah, and then she has a potential broken neck. They later clarified that she does not have a broken neck, so that's good. Because that would have, I don't know, I didn't think you could walk around like she did with a broken neck, but I guess it depends the extent of the break. So after the first challenge, we were already down one recruit, which the staff kind of seemed surprised about. Not really, but kind of. So, the other aspect to this was the confessional, and I put that in quotes because it's basically them talking to the recruits. And the first recruit that they spoke to was Jamie Lynn, because she had a massive panic attack. She was throwing up after it. She was just having a really hard time. And it turns out that it was because it brought her back to when her daughter had an accident, and she said she drowned, but they revived her. So did she really drown? And Jamie Lynn tried to save her. Now, my only beef with that was the other thing that they got out of her was that she always felt like she wasn't good enough because of her sister. And I'm sorry, even if you weren't a active part in Britney's imprisonment, the so-called conservatorship that she went through for years, yes, you didn't help. So, yes, maybe at the beginning you felt like you were in her shadow, but you didn't exactly. You had plenty of opportunities when Britney was locked away. So, no. So, yeah, that just didn't sit well with me at all. Um, and Mooch was like, "Oh yeah, I was press secretary for 11 days. I can take the heat." Really? You think because you were press secretary for 11 days that qualifies you for anything? Okay, dude. So, so Kate was the first one who was out. They talked with Jamie Lynn after the after the first event. And then later on that night, Dr. Drew wasn't feeling well. And I'm just like, when are these people going to be allowed to sleep? Because it was 11 o'clock at night when he went to the medic tent. And because he was at the medic tent, they were told at the beginning to always keep their canteens filled. So, because apparently part of Special Forces training is high school, they had those who had full canteens dump their canteens over those who didn't have their canteens full. All to teach them a lesson that when they say keep your canteens full, they mean it. Now, you'd think that Dr. Drew, especially considering how hot it was, because they're in the Jordanian desert, you would think that someone by the name of Dr. Drew would know to remain hydrated. But no, so he had to pull out. Because they tried to not give him an IV because otherwise he would be pulled out, but wasn't working and he had to get pulled out. So we're through day 1 and we're down 2 recruits. So we're down to 14 recruits. So day 2 starts and I was kind of sort of paying attention to the time, not that much. So day 2 happens and they start off with wanting to rank people from strongest to weakest. And Dwight Howard puts himself strongest and Beverly Mitchell puts herself weakest. And now I can get that Dwight Howard would think that initially because he's the biggest. Now we do know that based on studies that pound for pound the gymnast is the strongest athlete. But, Nastya didn't put herself anywhere, well, I shouldn't say anywhere close to the front, but she was about the middle. And like I said, Beverly put herself last. So they show the next challenge, which is again Fox. Jason and Foxy is demonstrating the next challenge, which is going across a zip line, just dragging yourself from one side to the other. And I immediately knew who was going to be fine in this challenge. Again, the acrobats, Nastya and Gus Kenworthy. And so this was the way they focused on Kate in the first challenge and her struggles. This one was all about Beverly. And Hannah mentioned she's the smallest one there. So she must really be tiny then, because I didn't look up her height, but Nastya is 5'3". So she's not exactly a giant. And so everybody failed. And then Beverly got a shot. And you could see that the staff was trying really, really hard, trying to pump everyone up, get them to get across. I mean, Dwight Howard was scared out of his skull to do this challenge. And I think it was Billy who was talking to him, said, "Oh, if you fall, you'll just keep going to the ground and we'll collect you later." And he's like, "That's not funny." Because they're pointing out that death could be a result of these challenges, but again, unlike regular recruits, and actually even that, I don't think it's a great PR to have celebrities dying on this show. So it's just to add some needless drama, but in this case it was actually kind of funny. And so the first person to make it across was, of course, Nastya. And the staff was like, "Okay, you made that look much harder than it should be." But I just loved it, how she used her gymnastics training to not let herself fall. And unfortunately, they didn't show Gus Kenworthy making it across the line, because again, those are the two I expected to make it across. And I think Danny was the other one who made it across. So the drama that occurred in this one was, first, Dwight Howard was relaxing on the ground, and the staff didn't take too kindly to that. It's like, you still need to be engaged even if you're done. It's like, dude, you're part of a team sport. You don't know that you're supposed to cheer people on? I mean, yes, technically this is an individual thing, but you can see when they are alone in their barracks that, they're trying to get each other's spirits up. And so then, but we get to Tyler. Now, my first question is, why number them if you're not going to go in numerical order for any of these challenges? What is the point? I mean, I get that you want to strip them down and you're not known as a person but as a number. I get that part, but not even after for the first challenge did they go in numerical order. It's very strange. So, but Tyler was watching all these people failing, and he decides that, and this is his reasoning for leaving: it's my wife's birthday, and I promised her I wouldn't get hurt. And you could tell Remy made it pretty obvious that he wasn't buying this shit. And I'm not buying it, because seriously, you knew when the scheduling was, and this is about special forces training. So obviously the chances of getting hurt are really good. So just say what you wanted to say. But his ego wouldn't allow him. His ego was so large that he could, do all these challenges, that he's really strong and blah, blah, blah. And so his ego wouldn't allow him to say, "I just don't want to be here anymore. I just don't want to go through this anymore." He couldn't bring himself to say that, but it was nice that, he basically went out with his tail between his legs, because he was acting like a dick. So that's the first recruit of the second day. So now we're down to 13 recruits that are left in the show. And they decide, after this challenge, they decide to talk to Beverly. And actually, no, before this, they were talking to Beverly and getting her to understand that she is not as weak as she comes across. That just because others think that she's the weakest doesn't mean she is. So, basically, they're therapy for these people. And, same thing with Dwight Howard. They talked with Dwight and, fix the attitude. Um, and he even said, I'm misunderstood. I like to have fun and, relax. I'm laid back. And that's when I do my best. It's not that I don't care. It's just that's the way I roll. So, after the challenge and talking with both Dwight and Beverly, the next challenge was the next challenge was to beat up Rudy Reyes. And they let Mel go first. And they were well aware of Mel being in an abusive relationship, so they were all like, oh yeah, this is gonna be fun. This is gonna be good for her. And that's actually what they wanted to do for a lot of these people, is like, okay, these people have issues. We need to let them let out their emotions. And Rudy apparently got the short end of the stick on this one. No idea how he was picked to put himself through that potential damage. And Mel was going at it. I mean, Rudy didn't stand a chance. But, it helped her, so everybody went at it, especially Beverly. Beverly and Mel were really attacking. Kenya, oh my god. I don't know if he was expecting kicks. Well, he got him. I just love it. I'm from Detroit. I know how to fight. Okay. So, everybody basically passed the challenge. Even Dwight, who Rudy, despite him being so much taller, Rudy seemed to get the better of him. Everyone, understood the assignment, did the assignment, except for Nastia. Mike Piazza was trying to, and Dwight Howard, I think, were both trying to convince her that it's okay. You can do this. It's okay. He's padded. It's all right. You're not going to hurt him, and you have to. If you were in a situation that you would have to fight, you have to fight. But to no avail. So, after this, in the evening, after all this, towards the evening, you could see ice on Mel's thigh, which makes me wonder how much longer she's going to be in the competition. We have Montel, who was like, please don't let it be broken. Please don't let it be broken, of his thumb. Which, unfortunately, he had to be removed for a potential broken thumb. And which sucked, because even the staff at the beginning were like, yeah, we see potential in this guy. And unfortunately, that sucked. So now we're down to 12 recruits. So then they had them put themselves from strongest to weakest again, but this time Dwight didn't put himself first and Beverly didn't put herself last. So, progress? So yeah, it's going to be so next week it looks like they're going to submerge them in cars. They're going to drown them. Is basically what's happening. They're going to drown them. And yeah, apparently Gus Kenworthy gets on their shit list because he does a somersault into the water. Which, this is not supposed to be fun. But maybe he did well or something. So yeah, I don't know if they're going to punish him as well, but I hope that that's not a sign that he's gonna end up leaving early, because I would expect someone who can do big air, freestyle skier, could do these challenges because they already have that crazy mentality. Let's see if I'm missing anything. They didn't show a lot of Kenya except to show her kicking the shit out of Rudy Reyes. There was quite a few that they didn't show. Looks like they're going to show more of Gus next week because of the fact that he got on their shit list. Oh yes, and the reaction that people were having to the disgusting toilets. I'm sorry. Have you never been on in an outhouse? I mean, these people weren't born into fame. Seriously, you've never gone? I mean, maybe because I have family members who live on farms in Slovakia and they had outhouses. Maybe I expect that, this is a situation that a experience a lot of people have had. But yeah, I just found that really weird. I mean, yeah, they stink. They do not smell well. My brother, when he was little, we had to put a pack of juicy fruit under his nose just to survive the outhouse. I was fine when I was little, but when I was older, that was like, ugh. Do not go to the outhouse if you can help it. But yeah, I've been to an outhouse many times. So yeah, I just found it very bizarre. And what was even more bizarre, because okay, maybe they, just because they're not from privileged backgrounds doesn't mean they've been to an outhouse. But what was really weird was Mel's like, "You're gonna poop next to me?" There are dividers. It's basically a stall. I mean, I'm pretty sure you've been to public bathrooms. Maybe not an outhouse, but a public bathroom. I just because you can, in Dwight's case, you can see his head because, I mean, he's that frickin' tall. I don't see what the problem is. I mean, maybe she's worried that he can see over the stall and will be looking at her. I mean, she did come from an abusive relationship, but maybe that's it. Otherwise, that makes no sense to me. Let's see if I'm missing anything. Oh yes, the bee sting. The other one where Tyler Florence really had bravado he did not deserve. He's like going on about how awesome he is, and he has to pull up his pants because it was falling down while he was trying to make it through the course. So glad he's gone. And yeah, it looked like Beverly was going to leave. Mel is in bad shape after the fight challenge. So yeah, we're gonna see who and how many people are going to leave next episode. And if it's they still have, it's supposed to be 10 days, and I assume it's an episode a day. So 7 more episodes. At this rate, don't think they're going to make it 7 episodes. They're falling like flies. At least the 3 left because of medical reasons. They didn't want to leave. They were forced to leave. But yeah, Tyler's the only one who was talking up a good game, but in the end, couldn't handle it. So, let's see if there's anything else I have about this premiere. Oh yeah, one more thing about Kate. I do like that she's self-aware. I mean, she looked back on how she acted in the early episodes of John and Kate Plus 8, and it's like, ew. I mean, there are certain things that she couldn't change. Like, she knows that when she's nervous, she can't shut up. So, even though she couldn't shut up, at least she's aware of it. So, it's just too bad I didn't get to see more of her, even though it was painful to watch her move because, yeah. So I'm really curious how next episode is going to go, how many challenges they're going to do next episode, if they're going to do just 1 a day, 2 a day, because they only showed the truck submersion challenge. So I believe that's everything I wanted to discuss on this episode, and I will see you guys next time.